I'm Sophia A. Jackson, and I'm the editor and founder of Afridiziak Theatre News. And today I'm joined by Mojisola Adebayo. Would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Sure. I am a theatre maker, an all-rounder, performer, playwright, director, and audience member.
And today we're here to talk about not one play, but two. So we've got Family Tree, which is currently touring, and we've got Stars, which opens next week, I think.
That's right, on the 18th of April. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's the press night. There's a few
Yeah,
shows before that.
at,
Yeah.
at the ICA in London. So we normally start off with a few quick fire questions, just some
Mm-hmm.
random ones. So the first one is, what's your favourite theatre space?
Oh, great question. The Royal Exchange, Manchester.
And why does that have a special place in your heart?
I just love the in the round feeling and the sense of theatre as a marketplace. Of
Okay.
course, in Manchester, in that particular space, it's also loaded in terms of history, in terms of the history of enslavement and
Okay.
etc. and cotton trade. But that
Right.
idea of theatre as a market.
Oh, I've not been there. I'll have to make a trip there and check it out, I think. And no one's ever said that one before, so that's good.
Oh, cool. I also love the Albany. The Albany. It's
Oh,
great.
yes, me
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Love
Um,
that space. Yeah.
lots
Again, in the round. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been going for years as well, so that's really lovely for London. Favorite playwright?
Oh, so many people have just jumped into my head, but I'm gonna blah, 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 blah. Oh, it's too hard. That's too hard. Lorraine Hansberry.
A classic, excellent. And what's your
Oh,
earliest?
Shanghai, and Sasaki Shanghai. I
Okay,
mean, yeah, Shanghai. It's got to be Shanghai. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
thank you. Have you seen For Black Boys as well? The
I
her
haven't yet.
version. Okay.
Yeah, I really look forward to it. Yeah.
Um, your earliest theatre memory?
Screaming my head off in a panto in Catford. And my mum, who is Danish and does not come from any kind of panto tradition,
Yeah.
telling me to be quiet, because she thought I was just being naughty, like all the other children were being really naughty, and I was screaming, and just that feeling of total exhilaration. Yeah,
But that's what you do at the panto. Like that
yeah,
is the
she didn't
place where you
know.
can scream. Oh, bless.
Yeah, she thought I was being naughty with about 300 other South London children.
And what's your proudest career moment to date?
I think it's coming up, and I genuinely mean that.
Hmm.
Yeah, the opening of Stars, I think,
Okay.
is a very touching moment. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you. And actually, what I would normally ask for, I know you've already had press night for Family Tree did you have it at Belgrade?
yeah.
Yeah. So for Stars, who would you love to see at press night, dead or alive?
Dead or alive. Who would
If
I
you
like to
could.
oh, if I could transport anybody
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And why?
Toni Morrison, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, bring
Yeah.
her right back to Family Tree as well. Yeah, we owe her so
Okay.
much.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's get straight into your productions. So it's a really exciting time working on two productions, Family Tree and Stars. How are you actually coping with the workload in terms of thinking about one production and not mixing up the two because you're working on them simultaneously, I guess, and have been.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm lucky in that Stars has been a long process,
Okay.
in some ways a lifetime process, but definitely I've been working on it since 2016.
Okay.
So it feels like that one's pretty cooked.
Mm,
And although I'm not in it this time, which is great, and
yeah.
yeah, so and Family Tree is really, really brand new, so it's a different kind of level of attention that's kind of needed. But yeah, I do feel drawn in lots of directions, but it's a fantastic privilege.
Yeah, it's a blessing to have the luxury of not luxury, but to be able to be working on two productions and for them to be both of them touring or just family tree. Yeah, that's
20,000
amazing.
family tree, touring all over the country, going like this.
Yeah, getting your name around the country as well is really good. Um, let's talk about family tree. In your own words, what is family tree about? I know what it's about, but I think if you could put it in your own words, that would be great.
It's about extraction from Black women's bodies historically. So it comes from quite a tough place. It's inspired by Henrietta Lacks,
Yeah.
whose cells were taken from her body in 1951, an African-American woman. Cells were taken from her body without her knowledge, without her consent, or the knowledge or consent of her family. She sadly died of cancer, but her cells continued to divide and still keep dividing, multiplying in petri dishes, in laboratories, in just about in every country in the world, where you can find cells. And we owe our medicine, really, every kind of medical intervention, vaccines, medication, since then have been tested on her cells. So we owe her so much, but yet she was hidden for so many years from history. So it's about honoring her and celebrating her, lifting her up, and also remembering other Black women who haven't been acknowledged for what they've given. So it's tough subject matter, but it's very, very uplifting in the remembrance and the celebration.
And have you had to reach out to her family members as part of your research, or?
Yeah, and it was really important to me that the play itself isn't a form of extraction, that the play itself is giving something back. And so we had the blessing of the Lacks Foundation, which is the kind of official kind of face of the family, really, and the kind of scientific work that they do and the development work that they do. So yeah, they support us, and they're happy that we're doing this. And yeah, and there's always from my side, it feels important because I earn money, and so trillions of dollars and pounds and euros have been made from Henrietta Lacks's cells.
Right.
So it's important for me as well as an individual to give something back. So that's my commitment as well.
So what kind of input did they have? Did they have any input into the play at all?
Not yet. I mean, I think that's still possible if the show goes to America, which I really, really hope it does. But it was very, informed by a book called The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, which was really about the relationship that one particular writer had with one of Henrietta Lacks's children. And really about the relationship with the family. So I also didn't want to impose too much and ask anything of them. Just to, celebrate her.
Was that also a Netflix documentary, or was it I think
at HBO with Oprah.
I remember watching it. And I know it's played at Belgrade Theatre in Coventry. How was it received there?
Really well, fantastically well. People find it a challenge.
Right. Okay.
It's some tough material. Particularly challenging, I found, there's these. It's not just Henrietta Lacks. There's also the story of three African women who had been enslaved, whose Anaka, Betsy, and Lucy, whose bodies were experimented on, sadly, and gynecological surgeries. So that's based on kind of real life figures, but we don't know anything about them. So it's trying to bring them to bring their voices into the contemporary space. But then I thought it was also, as I was writing it during lockdown, I thought it's also really important to think about now. And I was just, obviously because something about women and medicine and Black experience, Black Lives Matter. And it was like, I was so shocked at like many of us, at the lack of acknowledgement of the labor of Black and Asian healthcare workers. So there's a contemporary story as well about these Black NHS nurses are talking now, and it's tough. It's some tough truths. And so, people have found some of their language and critique challenging.
Oh, okay, fair. And did you make any changes to the script because of that, or no?
No, just more, really.
That's fair enough. And why did you choose to call it Family Tree?
It was partly because it's trying to make connections between all of these different historical figures and us today as well. But there's also a very strong connection, not just with extraction from the body, but also extraction from the land, and how extraction from the soil, what we take from the soil, is connected to what has been taken from Black bodies, and that enslavement was also, it was the plantation, and that's and so it felt important to kind of thematically connect all of that with land through that title. So it's a family, it's a genealogy, a kind of history, but also it connects with the soil and with the land and what we grow out of it.
That sounds wonderful. And why was it important to you to tell the story of Henrietta Lacks?
It's really important. I'm not the first.
No.
As I said, there's this book, Immortal Life, Henrietta Lacks, on which the film is based.
Yeah.
But I was really fascinated to think, well, she's still alive in some way, which is amazing. Like, she's still, I mean, her cells are multiplying as we're speaking right now.
So they still use her cells for doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God.
All over the world.
Wow.
You can go online right now and buy her cells.
Oh my goodness.
And none of that money has ever gone back to the family or anything.
Even now?
Even now, it's a huge trade. It's totally out of control. And because her cells they're the most powerful cells in the world. And they not only divide at an extraordinary rate, but if they're anywhere near any other cells, those cells become her.
So what is it about her cells that are so powerful?
Nobody knows.
Wow.
I've talked with scientists, I've read everything, and nobody can tell you why her cells, Henrietta Lacks' cells, are the most powerful cells in human history. And they will go on dividing, probably after human beings have gone to another planet. Yeah, she's amazing. And so, like, it was actually Matthew Gia, the director, said to me, like, if you could write down all of the basic kind of features of, what do we describe as a deity? I don't want to use the word God, to offend anyone, but the idea of a higher power. You go, well, they're omnipresent, they're eternal, they bring healing.
Yeah.
We ask them for things. It's like, wow, she's like a deity.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, but yet, her cells are called HeLa cells, taken from the first two letters of her first name and her surname. HeLa, HeLa cells. But because in 1951 at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore, where she died, when people started asking, wow, whose cells are these? They changed her name, made her sound more white. To Helen Lane and Helen Larson. Sometimes she's known as. So they hid from history. They tried to hide that she was a Black woman. And we owe her so much. So it was like, I just wanted to somehow not just talk about what happened to the family and the injustice, because I feel like that had been done in the Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, but imagine her speaking to us now. Because she's kind of somehow still alive. So she speaks to us right now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's what's kind of a little different about it.
So are you still learning about her now? Are you still finding out facts and you're like, oh, I wish I could put that in? Or is that
and remembering things, and with the actors working, it's that's really inspiring to kind of they come across things, and then I'm remembering things I've forgotten, and then it's great, but I can always learn more.
It must be quite emotional for the cast though. How are they managing?
They managed really well, and it was really important to ATC to have a therapist,
Yeah.
Bria, works with them
Yeah.
and is there for them, and also on Stars as well. There's a
Mm.
therapist there, Dawn Estefan. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Should we talk about Stars now? So the same again, if you could say in your own words what Stars is about. Yeah.
Sure. Stars is about a very old lady called Mrs. We don't find out her name until the end.
Hmm.
Very old lady who goes into space in search of her own orgasm. She's never had one, and she gets the notion that perhaps that's where all the orgasms go. I saw stars, the earth moved. So there's a kind of a light premise, seemingly. But I wanted to do that to find a way of talking about some tougher subject matter, but in a
Right.
really uplifting way, in a beautiful way.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to watching it, mainly just to find out if she does find the elusive orgasm when she goes is it there? Yeah. Oh,
Where is it? Yeah.
it's lovely. It's obviously a very different subject matter, so I think you're probably in a different headspace when you're working on that, because it seems a bit more light-hearted. But what are the tougher subject matters that come to the fore?
Yeah, I mean, I think I didn't realize as I was working on Family Tree that I was still, in a sense, those things are so connected, because it's really
Mm,
about the body. It's really about a Black woman, one particular Black woman's body. But she's kind of sparked on her quest because her husband's just died, and
right.
she's starting to reflect on her life, and she becomes
Mm,
friends with a little girl who lives across the hallway in her council estate. And that child reveals a secret about something that's happened to her. And she remembers an encounter that she had with a female lover many, many years ago that she kind of repressed.
okay.
And she also, as she meets up again with a very old friend that she used to work with, who comes out to her, and I'll say this bit, as this is not a spoiler, as intersex, as having being of mixed gender,
Right,
being a
okay.
woman, but actually being of mixed gender, like a
Excuse me.
very common experience. And it's often the I on the end of the LGBTQI that kind of falls off, that people are like, what is that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it's very prevalent in our communities as well, and very, very prevalent in peoples of African descent.
Right, okay.
And but again, another one of those kind of hidden stories.
Yeah, I don't know much about that myself, to be
Yeah.
honest. So it's great to see that on stage. And did you have any apprehension about this subject matter, which is obviously very interesting, but often people don't really want to go to the theatre to discuss orgasms. What were
Yeah.
what? I mean, I'm struggling to say it on an interview, so yeah, I'm generally not a prude, so I don't know what's happening here. But yes, did you have any apprehension about it, or have you received any sort of apprehension in terms of the theatre space?
I think it's a lifetime of apprehension, actually. I've wanted to, I've been too shy to
Yeah.
talk about it for so
Mm.
long. But I got this fantastic opportunity. I did this artist residency with Idle Women in Lancashire in 2016. And I got to live on a boat on my own for 3 months
That's
and just
amazing.
write what I like, and also do some workshops with women as well on the boat. It was really amazing. And I
Yeah.
think it was something about floating back on this boat
Mm.
and having total permission and going, okay, now I need to talk about pleasure. I need to talk
Okay.
about access to pleasure and
Yeah.
why it can be so difficult when one's recovering from trauma.
Mm.
And I've had a lot of trauma in my life, and I've written a bit about that through another one of my plays, Muhammad Ali and Me.
Yes, I've seen that one.
So I was like, okay, how is one thing to recover from trauma, but it's another thing to go, how can we reclaim our own right to pleasure in all its senses? Orgasm is just one, but I suppose it's just an emblem of that. It's just, but how can we allow for pleasure in our own bodies? And it was just lying on that boat and then thinking to myself, well, millions of women all over the world are cut off from their own pleasure, sometimes in a very crude way, in terms of, very direct way, in terms of FGM or traditional harmful practices.
Okay.
And for others, like intersex people undergoing surgery as children without their knowledge, without their consent.
Yeah.
So, which happens in Britain on the NHS, but people separate FGM from intersex surgery on children. It's like, but it's the same mentality. It's that you've got to look and be a certain way, and your body needs to conform in a certain way. You need to be controlled in a certain way, which has massive resonances with what's happening in Family Tree, particularly thinking about the enslaved women. So it's like, so although, it's a funny kind of title, but, I had apprehension about talking about it, but then I thought, no, it's really, really, it's not just about pleasure, it's about the power of pleasure and the politics of pleasure. And that when women are experiencing the fullness of their own pleasure, the world is in a revolutionary state, and girls in particular, when girls are happy, everybody's happy.
This is very true.
Simplistic, but, in terms of rights and in terms of their body.
I was going to ask about some of the synergies with the play, but with both plays, actually, you've already covered that. Can you talk about the immersive nature of the play? Because it's not just a stage production, there's a DJ, there's so much other stuff happening. Do you want to talk a bit about that as well?
Yeah, there's a live DJ plays all the way through the show, and on some of the nights it transforms into a club night. Ooh. There's animation by Candice Purwin, and we met on the boat, actually, so it's a really long collaboration. It's beautiful hand-drawn animation. There's creative captions, so people can read the text as well, but creatively, not just like subtitles. And it's dance, fantastic set. It's really, really, really rich and really layered. And then with the music, which is put together by my brother Debo, I was like, I really wanted to find a form that kind of matched the content. Like for me, being on a dance floor with my friends is like, it's kind of orgasmic. It's not orgasm, but it's like that's I would almost take that over anything else, to be honest. When it's really having a really good night out.
Yeah, definitely.
Give the audience a really, really good, a sense of a really good night out. And then I was thinking that then the music can't just be tagged onto the end. You have to have music running all the way through. So that's what I love about it. You could close your eyes and just listen to the music, or just block your ears and just watch Deborah Michaels, the lead actor. So it's trying to think, how can we not only make a piece of work that's accessible, in terms of people who are blind or visually impaired or deaf, but also make a piece that's that there's something in it for everybody.
I was just about to say that, but it's really nice that you've considered the accessibility of the play, because I feel like sometimes that's not at the forefront of theatre makers' minds. So it's great that you're incorporating that into your production as well. Is there anything else you would like to say about why people should come to watch either of the productions? That would be the final question.
I think in terms of stars, apart from everything I've said about all of the creative elements, that I'm sure there's something in it for everybody to enjoy. Even just come along and watch the animation. It's so beautiful. It's such fantastic drawing. But I suppose come because your pleasure is political. And when one thinks really deeply about that, it's like, especially for Black folk, we weren't meant to really enjoy ourselves, in terms of colonialism and enslavement and all the legacies of that. It wasn't meant to be. It wasn't about us and what we would enjoy. Nothing, quite the extreme opposite. So it's a revolutionary power. It's not frivolous. We can have fun with it, but it's your own pleasure, whatever your body is important. And this story celebrates that, and through the life of this character who struggles to access her own pleasure. And Family Tree, come along, because all of us owe our lives to Henrietta Lacks.
That's it. That's it. That's plenty of reason, to be honest. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing both in the coming weeks, and it's really lovely to talk to you again. It's been a long time since I've seen you. I think the last time I saw you was when you were at Oval House and it was Muhammad Ali and me,
Wow.
and you gave you sent me a really nice email afterwards, which has
Oh,
stayed with
bless.
me.
Thank
And
you.
it's nice because Family Tree is at Brixton House, and that's formerly
Yeah.
Oval House. So you've come full
Yeah.
circle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really proud of that. Yeah, yeah. To have a show in an area where I grew up as well,
Oh,
it just
okay.
means the world to me. Means the world to me.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
lovely. All right. I will see you hopefully on one of the press nights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you for everything that you do. Champion, champion woman. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take
You
care.
too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.